Okay, this is the second video of the angles and circles. So the first one covered when the vertex was on the center and when it was on the circle. Now we're going to do when it's inside and when it's outside. So on this first side, the vertex is inside. Okay, so the vertex is inside the circle. Okay, and when that's the case, this right here is your vertex that you're dealing with, and this right here is the angle. But this time we're going to have two arcs, this arc and this arc. And it doesn't matter which one is arc 1 or arc 2, you just know that we have two of them. So in this problem, or when the situation occurs, now note that this is inside the circle anywhere but the center. Okay, so in this situation, your angle, we're always going to start with the angle, equals 1/2 the sum of the two arcs. So we're going to add arc 1 and arc 2 and then divide it by 2. All right, well, what happens if it's outside of the circle? Okay, so here, whoops, is outside the circle. Okay, so on this one, here's your vertex. Here is your angle. Now this time we have two intercepted arcs again, but this time we're going to have a big arc that's furthest away from the angle and a small arc. And the reason I say that is because when we write our equation, the angle, we always start with the angle, is going to be 1/2 the big arc minus the small arc. So now let's see if we can do some of these problems. All right, so number 1, on this one, our vertex is right here inside. So we're going to keep writing equations because sometimes we're going to solve for the angle and sometimes we're going to solve for an arc. So we want to get in the habit of writing an equation. We always start with the angle. So in this time, the angle is x, and it's inside the circle, so it's going to equal 1/2 the sum of these two intercepted arcs. So one is 47 and the other is 70. So that means we're going to add these together first, and 47 and 70 will give us 117, and then we'll take half of that. So x is going to equal 58.5. Okay, let's try it again on the next one. This time the vertex is outside the circle. So when it's outside the circle, the angle, which in this one is x, is going to be 1/2 of the big arc minus the small arc. So the big arc is 85 and the small arc is 28. Okay, so in this one, 85 minus 28 is going to, oh, I hit something wrong on my calculator. Let's try that again. 85 minus 28 gives us 57. So this is going to be half of 57, and half of 57 is going to be 28.5. Now, these first two you probably could have done without writing an equation, but when you're solving for the arc, it's going to be really helpful to write that equation. So it's inside the circle, so we're going to add, and we always start with the angle. So the angle is 47, and it equals 1/2. Because it's inside, we're going to add the two intercepted arcs. So it's going to be 50 plus x. So to solve, we're going to multiply by 2, because over here, I could add the two numbers together, but 50 and x I can't. So that's why we're clearing the fractions. So when I take 47 times 2, we get 94 equals 50 plus x. So then to solve, we're going to subtract 50 from both sides, and we get x equals 44. All right, let's try this again on number 4. On number 4, the vertex is outside of the circle. It's right here. So we're going to subtract. But since we're finding an arc and not the angle, we really need to write the equation. So we always start with the angle. So the angle is 50 equals 1/2. And we have two intercepted arcs, and you have to always do big minus small. So that's going to be 130 minus x. I can't subtract 130 and x, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So that gives me 100 equals 130 minus x. So I'm going to subtract 130 from both sides. So that gives me negative 30, but that's okay because on the other side I have negative x. So I know that positive x equals 30. Okay, more practice. Next one, it is inside the circle. So when it's inside the circle, the angle, in this case the angle is x, equals 1/2 the sum of the two arcs. Now this time I'm not going to clear the fraction because I can add 60 and 80. And 60 and 80 is 140, which gives me 70. Okay, next one, outside of the circle. So when it's outside of the circle, the angle, which is x, is equal 1/2. And when it's outside, we subtract. But remember, we subtract, we have to do big minus small. So we have 100 minus 40. So we have a half of 60. So we get the x is 30 degrees. Now, technically, these are all degrees, but just like always, it's there, but I'm not going to count off if you don't have it. Okay, looking at number 3, the vertex is outside of the circle. So it's outside the circle. The angle, which is 25, we always start with the angle, no matter what you're solving for. It's going to be 1/2. It's outside. We're going to subtract, and it always has to be big minus small. So we're going to have 120 minus x. So to solve, I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 or by 2. So we get 50 equals 120 minus x. So I'm going to subtract 120. Good space management. I get 70 equals negative x. So x equals positive 70. Okay, again, on number 4, the vertex is outside the circle. So when it's outside the circle, the angle that is x equals 1/2. And then we have big and small. The big arc minus the small arc. Oh, but the small, whoa, I totally did that wrong. Take 2. Big arc 205 minus the small arc 35. Okay, sorry about that. Wasn't paying attention. So I got 205 minus 35. That gives me 170. So x is half of 170, which is 85. Okay, number 5. Going back, this time it's inside. Even though it's drawn as with arrows on it, still the same thing. All you're concerned about is where the vertex is, and it's inside. So the angle, which is 84, is going to be 1/2. And when it's inside, it's the sum of the two angles. So it's going to be 92 plus x. Multiply both sides by 2. So over here, 84 times 2 would be 168 equals 92 plus x. So we'll subtract the 92 and we'll get 76 equals x. Okay, last one in this row. Vertex outside of the circle. So when it's outside of the circle, the angle, which is x, equals 1/2. Now this gets interesting. This part is my big arc, but what I don't know is this part in here, my small arc. I'm going to have to figure it out. Well, I can because these two arcs together add to 360. So I'm going to do 360 minus 240, which gives me 120. So I know the yellow arc is 120. So I'm going to do x equals 1/2. Whoa, sorry about that. Big arc is 240 minus the small arc 120. Well, 240 minus 120 is 120, and half of that would be 60. Okay, number 7. Again, it's inside the circle. So the angle, which is x, equals 1/2. When it's inside, you add the two angles. So that's 85 plus 105. So 85 plus 105 is 190. So we have half of 190, which would be 95. Okay, number 8. Number 8, it is outside of the circle. So when it's outside, we're going to subtract. So our angle x equals 1/2. And remember, when we subtract, we're always doing big minus small, and the bigger arc will always be the one furthest from the angle. That's going to be 120 minus 30. Well, 120 minus 30 is 90, and half of 90 is 45. Okay, next one. The vertex is in the circle. But this time we're not solving for the angle, but that's okay. We're still going to write the equation, and every single time it's going to start the angle equals. So 58 equals 1/2. This time it's inside, so it's going to add the 2, so we have x plus 76. So now I'm going to multiply both sides by 2, so I get 116 equals x plus 76. And we'll subtract 76, and 116 minus 76 gives us 40. So we get x equals 40. All right, last few. On number 10. On number 10, the vertex is outside of the circle right here. So x, the angle, is going to equal 1/2. Let me write it down here. We got more space. X is going to equal 1/2 the big arc minus the small arc. Well, this time, all we know is the small arc, but we can find the big arc because these two together add to 360. So if I do 360 minus 95, we get 265. So this part is 265. So now when I subtract 265 minus 95, gives me 170. So this is half of 170, and half of 170 is going to be 85. All right, two more. This one over here, the vertex is inside. So the angle x equals 1/2 the sum of the two arcs. When it's inside, you add. So I have 40 plus 20. So it equals 1/2 of 60. So x equals 30. And finally, it's outside the circle. So when it's outside the circle, the angle x equals 1/2 of the big arc minus the small arc. So we have 1/2 of 100. So x equals 50. Okay. On your quiz that got moved to either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on what hour you are, you will have to know all these formulas. You will not get a formula sheet.